I'm nearing the end of my ultimate stealth camper van build, and things are properly speeding up. In this episode, I'm putting together the cabinets, at least the first kind of draft of the cabinets. After that, I'll be sanding, priming, and painting them. Episodes over the last few weeks have been a little bit slow. I've been away on a parachute course and at 2 weddings and a stag do, so it's been pretty full on. Now I'm over this hurdle, it's back to finishing the build and releasing some of the other content I've got planned as well. So let's go backwards in time and finish up building the cabinets and installing the fridge. I'm about to resolve my wiring issue. I've got these DC plugs with bare ends. That will go to power the second fuse box, and then for another one that I'm going to put an inline fuse with, and I'm going to use that probably to power the ceiling lights so that they're on their own circuit, consistent. They're not going to get any fluctuations in voltage or power. Yeah, that should be nice. I'm going to install those now. I'm not going to do it on camera because I've done enough wiring, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Let's continue work with the cabinets. First things, I'm going to put the vertical support that I need down there, and then some horizontal supports at the front and the middle, which are going to house the interior shelf that's going to sit above the plumbing system. That will allow me to strap the pipes and the wires to underneath the actual shelf, and it will give me loads of storage room as well in the kind of garage section underneath. So for the rear control panel up here, we've got the grommet for the wiring to the reversing camera, and then I've installed an on and off switch. I don't know what I'm going to use it for yet, possibly just the outdoor lights. I've got room to add something else on the left as well, but that's just going to screw onto there and obviously sit up there at the back. Remember, this is all going to be either painted or carpeted. Tempted to paint the back face and carpet this. I think that might look quite cool, or paint the whole thing. I'll see. Right, we're in temporarily. Looks fine. Yeah, obviously once this is tidied up and aesthetically finished, I think that'll look pretty cool. Let's move around the cabinet onto this side. First panel is shaped. We've got a strip going down there and obviously across the top. A couple of the considerations: this is sloped upwards in kind of line with the van, because the van floor slopes down. So this is kind of an uneven size gap. However, it's not really an issue. Once this top panel is in place, it can be, you know, wonky with a slight wonk on the top. But at the top, I will have a kind of a batten, like a finishing strip running the full length, just to keep everything looking straight. and then the cupboards are going to be cut out of the actual thing itself, so they'll be nice and straight. I won't have to rely on kind of hanging cupboards off the frame. I'm going to put a strip of wood underneath there, just so we've got some overlap for the second panel to screw into, and then obviously there's going to be a couple of doors there. Interesting way of doing it, but I'm trying to maximise using all the wood I've got, because it's a weird shape. It doesn't 100% fit everything, as you can see down there. So there's a gap down the bottom. This is going to get cut up to here. Then I'm going to have a long strip covering the bottom. What it means is I'll just have to have these doors probably about 1 inch off the bottom of this, so there'll be a kind of a biggish lip, and then we'll have 2 doors in there. The seams and the joins are all going to be filled with wood and sanded, so it will look like one continuous piece of wood cabinetry. I think it should look pretty cool. I'm going to be a little bit sneaky and to use up some of the spare scrap wood I've got before I start cutting up an entirely new fresh piece for this lower portion. I've got this piece that extends nearly the full length of this gap, literally leaves like 3/4 of an inch down the bottom, or down that side there. So I think what I'm going to do is put a little extra support in here, and probably just one in the middle, and have this, cut this to size, and have this pressed against there, acting as the lower piece, and then I'll just fill this gap with a small spare piece of wood, a spare piece of plywood as well. And then, like with the rest of the cabinets, I'm going to be wood fillering the joints and obviously all the screw holes, and then sanding those smooth and painting over them so it will look like one sheet of wood. You won't have been able to see, but I've done a nice scribe, just holding this up against it, scribed from behind, giving me a nice cut mark to go across. It doesn't actually need to be 100% accurate, because I'll be screwing this into the beams, into the battens, and the floor will be going against this wood. So even if there's a gap at the bottom, it's going to be entirely covered by the floor. Alright, that works, that'll be fine. It just needs a bit of support on the back, which I'll put in kind of when it's finally in its final position. Let's move on to one of these, I think, just to try and get this section done, and then I can start deciding what I'm going to do about the doors for all of this. So this is the second scribe, just getting it to fit closer, nearly there. This whole top section though is going to have some sort of like finishing batten that will take, you know, cover like the cabinet to the roof, because it's an angled cabinet, angled roof. So yeah, just to make it look tidier and straighter, we'll have an angled batten. My first cut actually looks pretty good, not quite halfway, so I just need to take off another maybe 1/4 centimetre or so. It is slightly sloped, again because of the van slopes. It's difficult to get a straight line cut, however I think it'll be okay. Making good progress. before I install my fancy light switch and start cutting up wood, I just wanted to test it. So just put two kind of scrap pieces of wire, link them in, touch it, lights turn on. So the switch works, so I can go and install it. It's getting a little dark, but I've cut out the hole in the panel. Got a hole for the wire to come through, to drop down. The switch is temporarily in place, fixed in. If we slide the seat, slot that into position. That's obviously getting screwed onto there. Switch down there, which is going to power, will turn on and off the ceiling lights and the ambient lights, which are going to be above the kitchen cupboard and on the floor in the cabinets as well. I've marked up how I want the upper cupboards to look like in terms of the actual door. So I've marked kind of like equal distances on both panels, top and bottom, and it's given me this door outline. I've used a washer to curve the corners for where I'll be jigsawing around, and then popped a spot in for the handles. For these cupboards, I'm just going to have two little kind of circular holes that you just pop your finger through and lift it out. They are going to be held on with hinges and magnetic catches. It's looking reasonable. I think the jigsaw was quite difficult to get a completely straight cut, but I think once it's kind of fillered, sanded and painted, it'll look pretty good. It's good enough, I think, now, but it is what it is. The hinges that I've got for all these cupboards, you need them to sit flush against the thing that it's kind of screwing into. I purposely left a little lip just to make it look a bit tidier underneath. However, that means I can't screw this in flush against the actual batten. So what I'm having to do is, I've got some of this thin wood left over from the ceiling, and that is exactly the width or the depth I need, the thickness I need for yeah, screwing it into there to make it fit. So what we'll do, just screw this in on the inside. Screw that in up there, and that gives the hinge the right sort of thickness away to make it actually work. 2 hinges attached to the door. Let's see if it works. I will screw in a screw where I'm going to put the handle, just so I can actually pull the door open. I've rigged up a mental contraption just to try and align the door so I can actually mark up where the hinges screw into. Bit of a pain. I've had to take off the kind of the base to the cabinet, unscrew it all, so I can actually reach inside and mark up the hinges. That took way longer than I was hoping it was going to take, but we're kind of there. It works. Door stays up, door goes down. I'm going to need to put a little, I guess, stopper on the back of this. Just the way the hinges are set, I guess, it kind of pulls the cupboard in. There's nothing stopping the cupboard going in. So yeah, we'll get something to keep it flush. It just needs to be like a small bit of trim or wood or something, just as a lip behind the door. Incredibly fiddly to do, but I've managed it. Just repeated the same thing again for the second cupboard. I didn't want to show you guys the exact same process, but it was the exact same process. I popped in the underside of the cabinet back in. This will all come off again, get another sanding down and primed and painted when I do all the other cabinets in one go. But for now, this is good. We've got 2 cabinets there, 2 doors. Like I said before, they just need a little door stop to stop it going back into the cabinet. And probably a little sand around the edges just to make them smoothly go in, like particularly at the top there, just probably round off the door a little bit. But yeah, we have 2 working cupboards. Well, 1 big cupboard, just 2 doors. Let's do a slightly easier cupboard. I think I'm going to do this back one here. Just taking this off so I can access it, and then we'll cut out the door for this. To make my life easier when attaching the hinges, what I've done is I've cut the 2 sides for the door, left the top so it keeps the door in place, and I've gone round the back with the hinges and just marked up where I need to screw them into the door. That way it should help. I don't need to like cut out the door, put it back in place, try and hold it and mark the hinges. It's already done. Now I just need to cut across the top. Hinges attached to the actual door, so it should make life easier. Now just cut across this line. Got myself a frame and a door, just need to screw these in. Before attaching the panel and cutting out the doors for this cupboard, I think it's probably worth putting in the 2 shelf supports that are going to take the horizontal shelves. Reason for this being, I just want to make sure I know where I'm putting my hinges and to make sure it kind of looks reasonable, basically, before actually putting it all in place. I've just put in temporarily 1 beam across to give me an idea of where the support is going to be. And if I put in a second beam, I actually think that's too much. I think these shelves will then look too small and be too small, because it only really gives like, I don't know, 12, 13 centimetres between each shelf. I think it might be better to have 1 upper shelf here that goes all the way up inside to the ceiling, and then a much bigger lower section, lower shelf. Bear in mind I'm going to be putting things like little pull-out boxes or something in there just to store stuff. Bear in mind I'm using these 2 cupboards as the kind of personal storage cupboards for people in the van, so things like toiletries, boxes, socks, underwear. In this cupboard it's a hanging cupboard, so you can hang up tops and you know, jeans and things like that, or just fold them up and put them in here. So I think one shelf actually should be okay and be enough for this, I think. This is the support box for the shelf, so that'll sit in there, the shelf going that way. At the rear I'm just going to use 2 metal brackets because I think it'll be easier to do than use up more wood. Scribed up behind this, hopefully that's come out. There we go. Hopefully that's come out. That looks good. Now I know where I can do my doors or door. Not sure what I'll do yet, whether I'll do 2 doors or 3 or 4. I'll have a think. That is the outlines of the doors done. I'm going for one large upper door, similar to the kitchen cabinet. And then the lower door is going to be 2, both opening outwards. This is going to be really difficult to cut, so let me try and work this one out. I now have one fancy looking frame, roughly sits there, and an upper door, and the 2 lower doors. Should be interesting. I'm hoping that kind of when I've finished all of these, a bit of filler and sanding should smoothen out all those edges and any like rough cuts, rough bits. That was incredibly fiddly trying to fit those hinges in and reach up inside there. Oh, I'm glad that is done. Don't want to do that again. This double opening type door was way easier to do. I just need to give it a bit of a sand when everything is getting sanded, just down there to make it a bit smoother. But yeah, so much easier than trying to attach the hinges onto these. The hinges are quite strong actually, which is good because it holds the door in place, but I'm still going to have those magnetic catches. To actually just get the hinges at the right kind of inset, I put in, I guess, a shim, just some offcut of that big 45mm square kind of batten for the hinges to attach to, and then on this side all it needs is a scrap bit of the 12mm plywood, and that will take the hinges nearly flush with the outside of the panel. I'm not sure what door I'm going to do for this lower one because it's quite a hassle. I think it's probably going to be 2 big double open doors that open outwards like that. I don't fancy doing this kind of dual split one because inside there we're going to have that double layer of shelving. The back here we're going to go for this double door split definitely because this is way too difficult. So yeah, double doors open up a nice big space inside to hand close them. Okay, that's done, but a little bit annoying. The spacing isn't quite right, so there's quite a large gap down the centre of this door. So what I might have to do is maybe find a handle that runs the full length of this, almost like a right angle, so that it sticks out and goes that way, and you can kind of hook it at any point. And then if I have that on both sides, it should close the gap. That'll be fine. Alternatively, a little bit of a rubber seal maybe on one of the doors, just to kind of tidy it up and kind of close it up. But yeah, once it's sanded down there, it'll be nice and smooth. But that's the doors done anyway, so pleased with that for now. Frustratingly, this cabinet was easier because I changed the jigsaw blade to a finer tooth blade, which meant that the cuts were cleaner and less jaggedy. Bit of a pain because I wish I did that for all the other panels. However, I have an outline and 2 doors to install, so let's get this screwed in and measured up for the hinges. Cut 4 bits of plywood for the hinge offsets. They're going to sit where the hinges go, in there, and then 2 on this side. That'll take the hinges to the right kind of depth away from the wall. So I just got to screw those in. Much better. Doesn't rub, it's the right spacing. The gap's a bit smaller between the door, it's straighter, it's less kind of torn up. Although it's a little bit further back than I'd like. While I'm here, I'm going to test out one of these magnetic catches just for this door. I actually don't need to install these until after I've sanded and painted everything. However, why not? Let's see how it works. We have a magnetic cabinet stay. Holds it reasonably well. It's quite difficult to pull it open, which is good. So yeah, pleased with that. The last thing for me to do today is very exciting. I've had the delivery of my fridge. I've gone for a 15-litre Alpicool fridge. I'll probably dive into this in more detail in another video. But great size, fitted perfectly with what room I have underneath the sofa and the seat. I've cut out the door and the frame. I'll attach the frame now, but the actual door I don't need to attach yet because I don't have the drawer runners or the wood to make the rest of the drawer. So I just want to be able to slide the fridge in and out for now, but essentially it's going to sit on a little I guess runner frame, and you'll be able to pull this and slide the fridge out, accessing it. The only other thing to do is to actually wire it up into the van, but I might save that for another day because it'll get a bit fiddly. But we've got the wire already down here going up through the column, down into the other side, already wired into the DC circuit board. But it fits. Very nice. Looks like I'll need roughly 55cm drawer runners to bring it all the way out, or actually, yeah, so I want to be able to access this panel. The only downside, I suppose, is the door only opens that way. So when I'm in the van, I'll be opening it against me, but I mean, it's not that difficult to like lean over and just reach in. It would be nice if it opened this way. However, I suppose if I'm cooking outside the van, handy for that as well. So to actually install the fridge, it's come with 2 cables, one of which is the AC power cable, which in theory I could use actually to plug directly into the battery. However, because I've wired up the cables through the column and the roof back down to the electric DC circuit board, I'm going to use the other cable that came with it. So one end plugs into the fridge, the other end is the cigarette lighter with the cable attached. Now what I'm going to do is just cut the end of the cigarette lighter off, and that will leave me with 2 bare ends of positive and negative cable. Now this will match up with the actual cable that I've installed in the van itself. So with the positive and negative ends there, quite high gauge, or sorry, low gauge cable. Takes a lot of amps, so this will be able to power the fridge, and if I need to I can just splice off another circuit for the rest of the van itself. So it's quite simple really, just cut the ends off that and expose the wires, attach them into the cable. I'm going to leave a bit of this kind of, well, all of this cable basically in, just so that I can, if I need to, take the fridge out and have it outside of the van itself. I don't actually know which one is positive and negative because these are like single sheathed cables and they're both black, so that's not very helpful. But one of the cables has a load of the writing on it with all the details of the cable itself, like the size and the gauge and things like that. So I'm going to guess that one is positive. It seems logical. Made in China, so who knows how logical they could be with this, but it would make sense to me. So you just clip those in. That's done. So what I'll do is we'll test the fridge, see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll reverse the poles, reverse the cables, and if that doesn't work, then we're screwed. Okay, the electronics are on. I've turned the fan on as it's on the same circuit, so I just want to make sure that's working, and I've just plugged in the fridge. So if we turn it on, hey, nice, perfect. That's on. Fan's still on. Eco mode. Yeah, good to go. It's still cold actually from when I was testing it out. The fridge on and the fan on as well. It looks to be drawing about 35 watts of power from the battery, charged to 80% roughly, and that'll keep going for about 41 hours, which is pretty good, I think. So it's quite a few days, nearly. It's only been about 10 minutes and the fridge is already down to 3 degrees. Cold inside, very cold in fact. I'd say that's a win, pretty good. I did actually use this fridge on the weekend. We took it in the back of the truck off to a wedding just to store like alcohol and food and things in. Worked really well in the hotel room, so yeah, very pleased with that. But it's nice to have it in the van. It's gonna be cool.